Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Cryptic Conversations. I'm your host, Tunes from the Crypt, and today we have the distinct honor of introducing a remarkable individual whose journey from the corridors of medicine to the realms of spirituality is nothing short of awe-inspiring. Dr. Carla Weis, a distinguished physician with nearly 30 years of experience across several states, has gracefully transitioned her focus towards assisting and guiding others on their spiritual path. She's not just a healer of bodies, but a nurturer of souls. As the author of The Power of Moving Forward, Seeing Alchemy in Life, Dr. Weis's wisdom resonates deeply with seekers of inner peace and holistic well-being. Today, we explore her captivating journey, the bridges she's built between medicine and spirituality, and the practical insights she offers to individuals seeking personal growth. Welcome, Dr. Carla Weis.
Wow, Lawrence, thank you for that amazing introduction. And it is my honor as well to be here and to be able to do whatever I can to help inspire other people. So what would you like to know?
Yeah. So first off, tell me about your early life. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school, and what was your family like?
I grew up in South Jersey. We call it South Jersey, but the southern part of New Jersey. I often joke that the state of New Jersey really doesn't exist because if you live in South Jersey, it's kind of a suburb of Philadelphia. And if you live in North Jersey, you're really a suburb of New York. So anyway, I grew up in South Jersey, close to Philadelphia, which is why Rocky is one of my fictional heroes. And I was the oldest. I was the firstborn. I ended up having three younger brothers, even though I prayed in church every Sunday for a sister. Never got one. And I was raised Catholic. That's the church reference. And I remember my childhood fondly. I was very happy. My parents loved each other, and
nice.
I was, for all intents and purposes, protected from, the evils of the world. And I remember it lovingly.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I feel like, oftentimes a lot of spiritual people usually have a more rough upbringing, a more dark upbringing. So I'm glad to hear that you had a relatively good one.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that's a good observation. Many times people who have had a challenging upbringing, or entry into the world, so to speak, they are much more likely to seek and search for some deeper meaning.
Yeah.
What's the point of all this? Why is life so hard? Give me some answers. And that's very legit.
Yeah.
For me, being raised Catholic and in a kind of protected, loving environment, I evolved to the same place. Because from religion, at some point you get into your preteen or teenage years and you're like, wait, what's going on here? This doesn't really answer all my questions, and some things are kind of squirrely. So what's going on? And then you begin searching. And for all of us, whether our upbringing was good and safe or challenging, life is challenging. And so at some point we all get to the place where we begin asking questions. And it seems like today more people have an opportunity to find more answers. That's really the goal, is for us to be able to have access to be able to find our way through the challenges of life. That's why one of the mystery schools on the planet is now open to the public, which is how you found me, because it does offer a path to navigate life for those who seek that. Not everybody, seeks answers. Some people are just okay without seeking. But many more people today are seeking And
Oh
let's
yeah.
face it, it seems like life in the world is more challenging today than ever.
Uh-huh.
So from that perspective, we definitely need some guidance. And
Yeah.
that's what I do now.
So what about growing up? Did you resonate with, the Catholic Church and those practices? Or were you more questioning? Did you reject it? What were your thoughts on that? And what about in this current day? Are you still practicing?
Great questions. I never rejected it. You know, as a young child, I liked it. I enjoyed going to church. I felt comfortable getting to know that there was God and angels and, Blessed Mother of Jesus. And I was comforted by those teachings and
Yeah.
ideologies
Uh-huh.
growing up as a young child.
Okay.
As I began preteen, teen, as I said, you begin to ask
Yeah.
questions. And so then I was seeking beyond
Mm.
the religion I was raised in to learn more. And of course, through the ancient mystery school path, now have a much broader perspective of life. And so right now, I don't practice Catholicism or any religion, religion being dogmatic.
Yeah.
Having certain belief systems that outside of which you're cast out in some way, even if it's just in the mind.
Yeah.
So I don't today kind of belong to or identify with any religion
Yeah.
or certain belief system of any kind, because I've been able to expand my mind to understand that all of humanity is meant to be unified. We're, really all cut from the same cloth
Hmm.
and meant to evolve as a collective,
Oh
not
yeah.
the same, right? Each one of us very unique and individual and have our own path of progression, but that within all that individuality, we have this collective purpose to evolve, to be more than we are, to
Yeah.
not be so separated by religion and any other belief system that makes me say, oh, them and us.
Yeah. Yeah. So you kind of touched on it for a second there. So in those teenage years, you said that you started to seek, beyond Catholicism. So in those teenage years, what were you doing to find other answers? And also I'd like to ask, about, your college life and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. So as a teenager, your world is your social life. At school, your friends, and what's going on in the collective consciousness. So for me, it was the 70s. It was rock and roll, it was music, it
Uh-huh.
was um, you know, sharing our own kind of ideas
Yeah.
with each other about what we thought was really going on.
Okay.
And so in the 70s, again, rock and roll was a big part of it. Led Zeppelin was big for me,
Oh yeah.
among many others. Traffic, huge. Um, but after teenage and high school, um, on to college, it's funny, I'm laughing because when I first went to college, I went to a community college, a 2-year college. I got an
Okay.
associate's degree,
Yeah.
and from there I decided to go on and get a 4-year degree, and I ended up going to a Catholic college
Oh wow.
in Pennsylvania. It was a family tradition, actually. Many of my aunts and ancestors, living and past, had attended this all women at the time
Uh,
college in Pennsylvania. Now
what was the name of it?
it was called Immaculata,
Hmm.
and now, of course, anybody can go. But so it's kind of funny. I kind of traveled away and then ended up in a Catholic college, but there's a lot of reasons for that. I did not attend really for the religion, but more for the family ties. And of course, it was my foundation.
Yeah.
That's where I had my foundation. That's where I had my original safety.
Yeah.
But then, I got caught up in life, the matrix, as we say. Fell in love, got married, had kids, and began medical school, and the real matrix path of kind of ingraining myself in the world.
Yeah.
And that was more of a priority, like getting ahead in the matrix, than going back to my evolution or seeking of spirituality. But then it came back around, of course, as it often does.
Yeah. Okay, so you got your medical degree, and then you started practicing medicine. Let's talk a little bit about your career.
I entered medical school because, well, when I left college, I became employed as a chemist in a pharmaceutical laboratory.
Oh, wow.
In fact, I began that career after my 2-year degree, and worked the night shift as a bench chemist for a pharmaceutical company to support my way through my
Oh,
4-year
nice.
college and degree. And then maintained that career for a couple years, had my first daughter, and I really wanted more. I was seeking for more out of life, and so I was seeking that in the matrix. And
Wow.
I really loved science, and I loved being a chemist. And so I decided that I would like to do medical research and find a cure for cancer. I wanted to do something of meaning in the world, something that would really help people on a large scale.
I love it. Yeah.
And I had, I had the skills for that. I had a high intelligence and discipline and ability to, do all the things that a scientist would need to do. And so I followed that passion, and I applied to do a combined MD PhD program so that I would be the best equipped that I could be, and training wise and education wise, to fulfill my goal of serving humanity on that larger scale through medical research. Well, in order to do that, I had to first become accepted to medical school, because they told me that was the hardest part. So I applied to medical school, and then I began my training in medical school, fully intending to then follow the program to get my PhD, and the way it was all set up. But after 2 years of medical school, which was when I had to make the decision of whether I was going to stick with that plan or not, I decided how much I loved medicine itself, and that there was so much more I could do that I couldn't see before. I've learned and tried to put forth in my book a little bit that, if we just take another little step forward, other doors begin to open up.
Oh, yeah.
And we begin to see more of the path forward than we could see before, but we just have to move. We just have to take steps. And that's what happened to me. I said, you know what? I think I'm just going to get my MD and be a practicing physician, and I can still help a lot of people. So that's what I did. And I graduated medical school. You're going to see how I kind of redirected myself multiple times, because when I graduated med school, I wanted to be an obstetrician gynecologist and help women and children. Okay. And that, long story short, that didn't really work out the way I intended, but I ended up doing some training in pediatrics in the meantime, because I also loved pediatrics and children, women and children. And then I found myself redirected into finishing a residency training in pediatrics and feeling very much at home there. Like little steps, and I found my way. And then pediatrics ended up being a stepping stone to find my way even more
Yeah.
into neonatology, which is what I practiced for almost 30 years, which is intensive care for babies attending high risk deliveries, and and that sort of medicine. And boy, did I really love finding my way to that. Felt fulfilled every single day.
Yeah.
And then came full circle and ended up doing research in neonatology in a pulmonary lab at the med school where I attended. So I was able to kind of fulfill my previous desire
Yeah.
to contribute, not just in my day-to-day work in the hospital, but
Yeah.
also on a bigger scale from the laboratory.
And what were the states that you were working out of?
Ultimately, I began working in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Well, started in Pennsylvania out of Philly, and then New Jersey. And then I practiced out of Georgia. I then went back to New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Then I moved to work out of Hawaii, Honolulu, and
Ah,
ultimately California, which is where I am now. So
yeah.
5 states.
Yeah. So
But
it's been
now
a
I'm retired.
yeah. So it's been a journey. So
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you now, so like what was that transition like, from having a successful medical career to getting into spirituality? It's fascinating. Can you share a pivotal moment that led you down this path of pursuing spirituality?
Yes, I can. I've never been asked that before. So in your asking in that moment, I identified that pivotal point. But because when you began to ask the question, I was formulating that it was gradual, right? It wasn't a sharp change.
Ah, okay.
It was almost 30 years, right, of
Uh-huh.
being a neonatologist, loving that, being able to really impact people's lives and literally save lives. Loved it. But overlapping with that, I was seeking, as I had started in my young adulthood again, for those answers that we all seek.
Mm-hmm.
And had studied through my own self-study, books and reading, and with speaking with other people, friends of mine. I'd studied Kabbalah and the tarot and chakras and meditation and yoga and all these things and more. And I liked it. Wicca and connecting with the elements and earth and these unseen forces, and getting a much bigger picture beyond my upbringing in religion. But I could see how it was connected, how it was all connected. From the time I young as I can remember, 2 or 3,
Mm-hmm.
I always remember feeling a connection to what we call God.
Oh, wow.
Um, so, so, as a child, then I was taught, oh, that's God.
Yeah.
Um, but then, of course, with all my self-study, seeing how it really was all connected to that. And so I was overlapping my own self-study and my own spiritual progression while continuing my matrix work as a doctor. Very happy. Ended up having 5 daughters. Now I'm a grandmother of 4 so far. But in terms of that shift, I identified in your question the pivotal point for me, which I wouldn't have identified at the time, but looking back was a pivotal point. And it was when, through a college professor locally in Orange County, California,
Mm.
I learned about something called a life activation and the modern mystery school. And the professor is a friend of mine, very good friend of mine, and she recommended that I have this life activation, of which I had never heard of.
Wow.
And so I went and made an appointment with her daughter, Teresa Bullard, and
Oh, okay.
yes, and I received my life activation. That was 12 years ago. And I asked her about more information about the modern mystery school because I was curious, right? I was on my own path, felt very comfortable and happy, but always seeking. The more we progress, the more we realize, oh, there's more. And so I asked her questions about the Modern Mystery School and whether this was anything that could support me or help me at all, because I wasn't really willing to put my time or money or energy into something that didn't have some potential of benefit for me. I was pretty discerning by that point in my life. But she answered my questions, and I thought, okay, maybe there's something here. So I put my deposit down and I went to the class that she was offering in the next couple of months called the Empower Thyself Initiation Program. And that, the life activation and then doing that program, that in retrospect was absolutely pivotal.
Okay.
Because it was from that point on that my spiritual progression, which I had supported myself with for many years and got myself to a good place, it was at that point that everything accelerated. I was able to take myself further than I ever thought I could, faster than I ever thought I could. But I only saw that in retrospect. But that was what was pivotal for me. And then that my work in the mystery school and my own progression on that accelerated path overlapped my work as a physician for more years, never thought, at least 5 years. And then eventually, I found my way out of the matrix work and more into what I do now, which is teaching and sharing healing sessions and activations myself to help other people in their progression. And in the middle there, I was diagnosed with a chronic illness, which meant that I really couldn't work anymore, because I had a plan, but then it was torn down. I had a plan of how I was going to negotiate the two moving forward, but that changed. And so I adapted and moved forward with it.
Yeah.
It's my book.
So the universe definitely had another plan in store for you. So
yes.
What college was that? Was that Fullerton College or?
Where Barbara Bullard was a professor. It was Orange Coast. Yes.
Orange Coast College. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
My brain was having a little seizure there. OCC. That's what I was trying to think of. Yeah, Orange Coast College. She's retired now, but yeah.
So was she telling the whole class about the life activation, or did you guys have kind of like a special bond?
Such a great question. Both.
Because I almost feel like that's kind of like secret knowledge that you guys kind of were like talking outside of class or something.
Well, here's the thing. I learned about her. I was a doctor, right? I was already practicing medicine for decades. I didn't just choose to take a class at OCC, but 3 of my daughters had attended a class that she taught at OCC. And one of them, well, all of them, but one of them in particular was persistent in telling me that, oh, Mom, you got to go meet this lady. She's just like you. You would love her. I poo-pooed it for a while.
Oh, wow.
And eventually I couldn't ignore them. And so I signed up for her class and I went because it was something I could negotiate with my schedule. Because at that point I was flying to Hawaii once a month for a few weeks and working there before I had my California medical license. So I had time while I was in California and I signed up for her class. And the first day met her and we just immediately connected. And she said, you should have a life activation. But at the same time, she was sharing this and many other mind expanding things with her class, with her students. That's what she was known for there. And she did that for decades. And I'm pretty sure that the administration per se wasn't really aware of.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
It was in, she was a communications professor. So
Oh,
it was in the Department of Communications, but the way she explained it was intrapersonal communication. That was
oh,
the
wow.
category of the class, meaning communicating with yourself,
Yeah.
right? So it was quite unique. And I doubt anyone else has ever done that at a college, but I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, it's possible. I didn't believe it was true when my daughters told me, but then I learned it was at OCC. So by
Yeah.
now, hopefully, other professors are beginning to expand what they expose to their students. I hope.
Yeah, I love it. In my life, I'm always trying to notice the synchronicities, trying to notice the signs. And so when I went to have my appointment and my session with you for the life activation, I thought it was interesting that I think it was literally the night before I was watching a video on YouTube, and it was Teresa Bullard talking about the modern mystery school and stuff like that. And you know, I I didn't know anything about the modern mystery school at that point, except for, like I said, I had Steve Porchetti on my podcast and he kind of talked about it, and that's all I really knew. And then it was interesting the night before, and I wasn't looking it up. And I was watching a video about her talking about it, and then I go and meet with you. And you said that she gave you your life activation, right?
She did. And she taught me that first Empower Thyself class that I now teach for other people. Yeah, it's crazy. But the synchronicities are there when we pay attention.
Yeah,
And after the life activation, many people say that they're more aware of synchronicities in their life that guide them, and so that their path becomes more directed for them after the life activation. But
yeah,
I'd love to hear from you because
yeah,
it's been a few weeks now since you had your life
yeah.
activation. Is that anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I was about to get into that. Yeah, so I think what I noticed is immediately after my session with you, and like the next day and days afterwards, I don't know how to describe it. It was just like I felt more joy, like it was just like this feeling of joy in my chest, like it was just like a smile on my face, just like this feeling of like, it was almost like anxiety, but like a good anxiety. It was like this anxious, like excitement, and just through my chest, and I just felt it all like throughout my energetic field, and so I noticed that for sure. And then the one thing that's kind of interesting looking back on it was, I had my 3-year anniversary at my job, and my boss didn't even acknowledge it, and I felt I was getting kind of emotional in my feelings, like, man, like I've been working so hard for you for these 3 years, and it's my 3-year anniversary. Normally, you get a raise every year, like that's common practice. It's not mandatory or whatever, but that's how things usually go. You get your review, you get a raise. At least take me to lunch or show some kind of appreciation or something, right? And anyways, I didn't hear anything, man, and the old me would just bottle it in, and I was doing that. I was just bottling it in. It was like weeks after. It was about a month actually after my 3-year anniversary, and I was just bottling it in. And then finally, I was like, you know what? No, I'm not doing this anymore. So this is a change in me that I'm noticing. So I reached out to my boss, like, hey, like, can we sit down? Can we have a conversation? And just basically, what Steve Forchetti said on our episode together was like a throat chakra opening, and I would just describe it as like that as well. Like my communication has gotten a lot better. And it was just kind of like, yeah, having that ability to sit my boss down and persuade him and explain, my feelings, how I was feeling, and persuade him to give me, a raise, and so that's kind of interesting.
Wow. And that happened? You got a raise?
Yeah,
Nice job.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, the life activation is it's different for everybody. That's been your experience so far, which will keep unfolding, by the way. But it's that spark. It's a spark of empowerment.
yeah,
It's a spark of awakening more of who we are. And our emotions become clearer too. We teach that our emotions are the language of the soul.
oh
So if
yeah,
that life activation brings a spark into your soul, you're going to be expressing yourself more. Um, so good for you.
yeah.
Glad to hear that.
The other thing that I'm noticing is I feel like it, I think I told you, but I went on an ayahuasca retreat 3 months ago, and that was huge, right? And then I feel like this life activation kind of complemented it really well, and it kind of has extended the effects or whatever. And the other thing that I'm noticing, I don't know, I might be crazy, I don't know, but I swear, man, like, so it's like when I enjoy going out in nature so much. You know, it's my daily practice. I ground myself. I go out in nature, and now it's like I'm noticing, like I feel like my frequency has literally, like, you know, I'm on like a higher level of frequency, because when I'm out in nature now, like I swear I'm seeing so many more butterflies. They get so much closer to me, as well as the birds. I don't know, man. Like that's just what I'm noticing. I don't know if that's an effect of it, but I definitely
Well,
feel
that
like the butterflies are more comfortable, or like they feel my energy or something, you know?
oh no, it's real. That light comes in,
Yeah.
fills you, and then it's reflected in your perception of
Uh-huh.
everything around you. And I would love for your listeners to know that that experience of the life activation happens regardless of whether someone has done ayahuasca or not. I mean, that was your experience, you know, but the life activation does that all by
Oh
itself,
yeah.
for people to help them move forward. That spark lights them up. And that's what happened to me. And that's what
Uh
happened to you, even though our personal experiences were different in how it unfolded. That's what it does. And it's always good.
yeah. Okay, so your book, The Power of Moving Forward, Seeing Alchemy in Life, um, explores profound insights. Can you tell us more about the concept of the message of this book and exploring alchemy in our daily lives?
Yes, I would love to. Well, in this book, which you know, we many of us, don't we always say, "Oh, one day I'm going to write a book,"
Yeah,
but then we never really do.
yeah,
And you know, and that was me. I always thought, "Oh, one day I'll write a book," but I wasn't very invested in doing it. And many people would say, "Oh, you should write a book," and I was, oh, "Okay, yeah, but you know, later." Um, but this particular book, kind of like with the synchronicities that you've shared and talked about, for me, it was that, and like on steroids, that and more. It kind of just came in, and it was kind of like a child that was ready to be born. Okay, I'm coming in now. Oh, okay, all right. I'm gonna get this book out. I guess now's the time. Even though I still wanted to put it off, I wrote it. And what I ended up doing with the book was I share my story, but I wanted it to be more meaningful than that. Um, I felt that that was very important. And so I ended up sharing my story of my life so far, but through the lens of alchemy. And what does that mean? Well, alchemy is all about transformation. It's about raising our vibration. It's that magic of change and transformation, which we're all meant to be doing all the time in our life.
oh yeah,
And alchemy is very much about life, and the transformation that life brings, but ultimately the transformation that we can create moving through life. And so I wrote 7 chapters to correspond with the 7 stages of alchemy, and told the story of my life through those 7 chapters by at the end of each chapter, explaining that stage and what it really meant, how my experience was kind of a sample of those energies of that stage, and then
mm,
offered guidance for people in, regarding that stage,
yeah,
so that they could identify where it may be playing out in their own life and how to navigate it. And
nice.
then for fun, I also include a song at the end of each chapter that for me represented the essence and energy of that chapter. So I had fun with that.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so chapter 6, I really devoted to the mystery school path, to that
Mm,
search of ancient wisdom, and the modern mystery school, which is now the only mystery school on the planet open to the public that now allows us to accelerate our progression in that way. So I felt like that deserved a chapter by itself, and it did correspond with the sixth stage of alchemy. And then chapter 7 is all about how we can make the world a better place through alchemy, through our own spiritual progression as individuals, but then also collectively. So that's how I wrote the book.
Okay, I love it. Yeah, so I'll definitely add a link, so the listeners, the viewers can get a copy of the book.
I would love that. Yeah,
Awesome.
I don't know if this works, but this is the Amazon link. But I do want to say that for some reason this morning I looked on Amazon and it's saying my book isn't available, but it is available. And I'm working with my publisher today on why that is. But if you find it unavailable, it will soon be. It is very much available.
Yeah. Okay.
It is on ebook and paperback and on any platform where you buy your books.
I love it. Okay, so you said chapter 6 was kind of like taking a deep dive into the modern mystery school. So can we talk more about the modern mystery school? So I was going to ask you how you got involved, but you touched on that. So you got involved through the Professor Barbara Bullard and meeting her daughter, and that's kind of how you got involved. So I'm wondering, can we get a brief overview of all of the different programs and classes that are offered in regards to the modern mystery school?
Wow. Yes, we can. But I would never be, the list is almost endless.
Or at least there's a handful on your website that you could kind of just like touch on.
Yes. So for people who would like to get started, or like what I did, kind of just get a little taste and then see if it's worth their while, I would always start with that life activation session. You can find a practitioner anywhere around the world, actually, on the Modern Mystery School website, which is www.modernmysteryschoolint.com. But anything Modern Mystery School you type in, you'll get to their international website. And then if you click contact, you can find a life activation practitioner anywhere. So that's what I would start. But then beyond that, in terms of classes, as I've already mentioned, the Empower Thyself Initiation class is really a weekend program. It's a 2-day class where you receive all the foundational mystery school teachings. No joke. So much in that program. You're handed down ancient lineage rituals that you can use for your empowerment every day and to support your spiritual progression in a huge way. And then at the end of the 2 days, you receive an actual ancient lineage initiation into the King Solomon lineage. With that brings huge empowerment to your structure, to your life. Where you can then stand on that platform of initiation and do huge alchemy to literally transform your life. I've watched it happen for people over and over again. Now, for people who may not be ready like I was to say, okay, that sounds good, I'm going to do that weekend class. There are smaller classes for sure. Sacred geometry. Now, there's a lot of sacred geometry classes all the way up through 11 now. That are being unveiled from the lineage. But Sacred Geometry 1 is a really great half-day class. You get great knowledge as well as energetic shifts and tools that you can use to apply the energy and the empowering energy of sacred geometry in your own space. There's a half-day class of astral travel where you learn the deep mystery school teachings about what that really is and what it's meant for, and then tools and training in how to do that. We actually take students through that in the class that they can then work with themselves at home. We teach a class called 12 Races of Earth, where you learn about all the other races of Earth beyond humans. Journeys of the Spirit is an amazingly transformative full-day meditation class of meditation journeys. And then there's other smaller evening classes. Like this Wednesday, I'm doing a class Wednesday evening on spiritual intuitions and how to build your your access to your own gifts, your own spiritual and psychic gifts through your senses. Um, so spiritual intuitions. I also do a fun evening class on the 7 mystery schools on the planet. So the modern mystery
Mm,
school is one, but what about the others?
yeah.
Well, there's 6 others. And so in that little fun evening class, there's a huge amount of information on all 7 of the mystery schools on the planet. Of course, they're all closed to the public and have been forever, but then we have this one that is now open. So
Mm,
there's lots of
yeah.
options for people who want to get a taste, and I
Yeah.
highly recommend it. I mean, for me, it was what literally accelerated my spiritual progression and helped me to move forward in a way that I was searching for, and ultimately, in retrospect, in a way that I didn't even know I was searching for, but that has allowed me to have a life today that's way more fulfilled than I ever imagined. And that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
I love it. Yeah. So it sounds
yeah.
like a lot of powerful programs and courses and offerings that you offer. Yeah, I even saw that Teresa Bullard. I was watching on YouTube again the other day that she had a video on Gaia about astral travel, and so I think to not overwhelm the listeners with all of the information, like you mentioned, the most important thing, start with that life activation. So I'd like, can we talk a little bit more about the life activation? From my perspective, I'd love to obviously hear what your thoughts are on it. But from what I was feeling out of what the work that you were doing on me, it was definitely some energetic work, some chakra balancing. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that life activation process and what it entails and how it can impact individuals on their spiritual journeys?
Yeah, I'd love to, because it is huge.
Yeah,
It always starts with that. It always
yeah,
starts with that spark that really can wake us up, literally activate us. It's about a 1 hour session, hour to an hour and a half. Approximately the first half of the session, you're getting all of your energy field balanced, everything that's held in your energy field, your magnetics, your elementals, your chakras, um, your etheric energy. It's all getting balanced. Um, and that prepares you for the actual activation itself, which is done with a wand, a crystal wand. It's done, believe it or not, the same way that it was done 3,000 years ago in King Solomon's temple. So it is a shamanic wand. It's wood and it has a clear quartz crystal on it, and it's wrapped in leather, and that's it. And then we have a
wow, that's awesome.
stone and a crystal that you hold in your hands. But literally, this wand then, through this ancient modality that has been handed down, we're able to bring light in to activate dormant parts of your DNA. It's
Yes,
literally bringing light in to activate and awaken your true essence, the you that is really you. And that's what you experienced with feeling that connection to yourself in such a way that you needed to express and do something to stand up for yourself,
yeah,
right? To bring more empowerment to yourself. So that light comes in, and whatever it is that that individual person needs to bring their life more in alignment with their true essence, that's what it does. So it unfolds a little differently for everybody. Some people may find themselves leaving a relationship that is not supporting their progression forward. Other people may find themselves getting into a relationship that's supporting their progression forward. So
yeah,
um, that's in a nutshell
yeah.
the
I
life
love it.
activation.
I love it. And real quick, I want to say, this is kind of off topic, but just in case my boss sees this or listens, or someone relays the information to him or something, I do want to mention that he's a great boss. He's a great leader. He was just very busy. He's in the process of opening a restaurant and running multiple businesses. So he just kind of just forgot, so it's not, I don't want to put a bad name for
Oh,
him.
that's so important because we're all human, right?
Yeah.
And then after the life activation, you were able to actually communicate with him
Yeah.
to learn that, to find out, oh, here's where he's coming from, have some
Yeah.
compassion.
Yeah.
And then he was having compassion for you.
Yeah.
So that's what it's all about. We're all human. We're
Yeah.
all just trying to help
Yeah.
each other.
Exactly.
So I'm so glad that you were able to manifest that after
Yeah.
your life activation.
Yeah. Okay. So what about, could you share an example of a transformational experience or breakthrough that you've witnessed in someone that has worked with you, that guided on their spiritual path?
Yes, there's many. So I'm taking a moment to decide what I'd like to
Oh
share.
yeah, of course. And of course you don't have to use names or anything.
Yeah. Well, I'll just speak. There's so many. Um, okay, so what I mainly witness is people moving into their empowerment and taking control in their life. And then through that, finding more success in their life, not just spiritual, but physical. And I will get more into answering your question, but right, success, we're here in the physical, right? So it's not just about spiritual success, spiritual progression, because our true essence is spirit, is about success in the physical as a spiritual being, having success in the physical. So that's what I've witnessed people being able to do. So I'm thinking of two women in particular who were able to, through the life activation and also the Empower Thyself initiation program, recognize, well, they also did another program called Kabbalah, but that's another podcast maybe. They were able to recognize and acknowledge the gifts and strengths that they had held within themselves, but beyond that, they were able to then step into action to kind of, in a way of speaking, communicate this to the world, and then through that find very stable jobs for themselves and careers, really, that allowed a flow of abundance that they never had before. And then, of course, through that, it feeds itself. Then they stand more in their power and create more for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I've watched two young women evolve their life into such success and empowerment, and they still can do more. There's another woman I'm thinking of who was able to move herself out of not a bad relationship, but she evolved beyond it. And I watched her be able to harness what she needed in her own progression to move her life forward. And in that case, it was moving out of a long-term relationship that served her well, but she moved beyond it.
Wow.
So those are just a couple examples.
Yeah, I love it, man. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you're noticing it too, but I'm seeing such a massive shift in the feminine energy. Like women are becoming, man, you guys are awesome. The women are becoming so powerful, and I love to see it. And I really think we need more women in leadership positions and politics and everything. I think it'll really help change this world. I was even reading an article the other day, and it said, 1 in 3 women are running some of these top, tech companies in the world. It's 1 in 3 women running these companies now, and I'm sure you're noticing it, right? It's a huge shift.
It is a huge shift from how I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and I touch on that in my book. And so thank you for saying that. The masculine and feminine energies are fascinating.
Yeah.
And they're different, right?
Yeah.
Women have different gifts than men have.
Yeah.
It's much easier for us to multitask, right? And take care of a bunch of kids and do other things at home or in our work, and kind of juggle a lot of balls. Men are more single focus, but boy, do they have focus and drive and stamina to really achieve in the world.
Yeah.
And so thank you for supporting women. I love hearing that, but I also want to acknowledge men, because I see men and women as equal,
Yeah.
different, very different, but of equal power in the world.
Uh-huh.
And I love hearing a man support women.
Yeah.
And I hope that women can also
Mm-hmm.
support men and acknowledge them for their efforts as well, because we're meant to be in
Yeah.
positions of power together,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that both of our gifts can be risen and through alchemy, right, raised and transformed to the best that they can be together.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the way that you just put that and describe that. I just have a feeling, I could be wrong. I don't know. I just have a feeling that like, just like, a lot of men in politics, with egos and pride, and it's the cause of a lot of wars and stuff like that. So I don't know. I would love to see, more women in politics, and hopefully it brings more peace and harmony to the world. I could be wrong, but that's just what I feel. I don't know.
I would love to see men and women working together,
Yes.
acknowledging each other's unique gifts,
Uh-huh.
and moving the world forward
Exactly.
into a better place.
Yeah.
I'd love that. Love
Yeah.
that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. Okay. So many people struggle to balance their spiritual growth with their daily lives. How can individuals integrate spiritual practices into their daily routines?
Great question, because that's so important and fundamental, really, to our spiritual progression. Any of us can go up on the top of a mountain and meditate and perhaps find enlightenment, but what
Mm-hmm.
is that? How is that helping 99.99999% of the collective of humanity who's not doing that?
Yeah.
I would suggest it has some benefit, but you've gotten to the crux of it. And that Empower Thyself 2-day program that I talked about, that shares all the foundational mystery school teachings, as well as a very powerful ritual practice, including meditation training as well. That is the best way that I would recommend for someone to begin to answer that question for themselves about how can I bring my spiritual progression into my daily life and have both thrive. That program really gives the foundation for that. And of course, brings in that initiation, which expands your capacity to hold power in the world spiritually and physically. So that program really holds it all. And at the same time, it's just the beginning of how we can do that. So for those who kind of love that and then want to take it further, they can do that. Beyond the Empower Thyself program, which is like literally the answer in a can for that question, beyond that, the best way to do that is through the Universal Hermetic Ray Kabbalah ascension journey that you can do through the Mystery School. It requires that you have had the training of that Empower Thyself class before, but boy, does that bring home how we can integrate as spirit and physical together, the progression and success of that here. It's huge for that.
I love it. Okay. So what are some common misconceptions or challenges that you've encountered when helping others on their spiritual journeys, and how do you address them?
Great question. Love you, Lawrence. These are super questions to help people, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
The challenges that I find really easy to answer. In terms of each of us progressing in life, in our spiritual progression or in our physical life, who stops us the most?
Ourselves.
We do it.
We do it to ourselves.
We
Yeah.
stop ourselves more. We may find ourselves pointing the finger. We all do that. Oh, it's them, it's this, it's my job. Okay, maybe. But who stops us the most? We do.
Yeah.
So we always need to do this. Oh, where am I stopping my own progression? So yeah, that's what I find in working with clients and assisting them to move forward is helping them to see where they're stopping themselves and how they can shift that just a little bit more so that they can move themselves forward just a little bit more to find more doors opening and more opportunities for themselves. So that's the biggest challenge for all of us is us.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more powerful than the path of the mystery school and all the tools and teaching that the lineage holds to help us to overcome those things. Because it is very much about moving forward. But in order to move forward, we have to get over we have to get over ourselves and that ego that we all have. And there's tools for that. There's training for that. So if you want to do that slow, you can do it slow. If you want to find an accelerated way, there's an accelerated path for that.
I love it. That was so well said. Okay, so I guess kind of closing it out, so what is the vision for the future of your work? And then can you send the listeners out there a final message of love and healing?
Oh, yes. I can you repeat the first question?
Yeah, just already... the vision for the future of your work.
Oh, yes. Thank you. So I've been doing work within the mystery school for about 12 years, studying, training, and now for many years serving other people with the tools and the teachings. And I always have goals for myself because that's how we move forward, right? Have a plan. My goals and my plan is to move forward with helping as many people as I can. I'm going to share with you and your listeners that this is only my second podcast in my life. The first one was a couple years ago. And, it's not part of my holding myself back has been that I don't always want to put myself out there.
Yeah.
A big part of overcoming that for myself was writing this book. It was like, oh, crap, I'm really putting myself out there now. Yeah. But then I realized within myself that, but I'm avoiding these podcasts. I'm avoiding these people who said they'd be happy to interview me. So this is part of me moving forward and putting myself out there more so that I can accomplish my plan and my goals of reaching more people and helping more people, those people who are drawn to me. I would love to help as many people as I can. And then more specifically, I'm currently in training and apprenticing to actually be a teacher of Kabbalah, which very few people are. The training is rigorous, but that is a specific future goal of mine is to move forward in being able to realize that so that I can help even more people in their own progression. And then a final message of love for people and healing is just to say that the world today really does need healing. And when I say the world, I do mean, of course, the earth and the world and everything in it, but primarily we as humans, as individual humans, we all need healing.
Yeah.
That healing comes from love and forgiveness in our hearts. And so I hope that we can all find within our individual hearts love and forgiveness for ourselves, for our own healing, so that we can individually move forward. Because it's only in doing that and from that place that we can then serve other people and contribute to the healing of the world. But healing of the collective of humanity begins with us healing ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
So let's find love and healing in our own hearts for ourselves. Through that, we grow compassion for others. And that's how we change the world, my friends.
I love it. I love it, man.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to say, I feel honored that, I'm your second podcast episode. So I feel honored. I want to thank you, Carla. I want to thank you so much for meeting with me today. Thank you for providing such great wisdom and insights on this episode. I want to thank the listeners for sticking around to the end. So Carla, please tell everyone where to find your information, and I'll also add it to the description of the video.
Oh, thank you. My website is sacred-vibrations.com. So sacred-vibrations.com. You can contact me there. And then, of course, if you're not in the Southern California area, modernmysteryschoolint.com. And my website's the best way to contact me. So I'd love to hear from you. And I'm also doing meditations every Monday night in Huntington Beach. So you could join me for those again through my website.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You have a great day.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Thank you. Bye.